Forward TV. The world is thinking.
That fundamentally, the China issue is our problem. It is a sense of fear and uncertainty here in the West that makes China appear threatening to us today. It is our own sense of confusion, our own sense of disillusionment, if you like, that makes China appear strange and overbearing to us, rather than anything that the Chinese themselves are doing. In essence, we lack the political maturity to engage with China in any kind of constructive fashion. China is continually presented as the other in Western public debate these days, and it's presented effectively as the moral opposite of the West. We fear China, this populous, modern, economically expanding nation, precisely because it runs counter to the petty politics of Western societies today. It runs counter to our celebration of sustainability rather than economic growth. It runs counter to our preference for environmentalism over city building. And it runs counter to our desire for small populations with small carbon footprints rather than billions of people running around working, eating and driving cars as they have the nerve to do in China. China continually appears as an affront to Western low horizons. So it's never enough to report the facts about China today. They must always be accompanied by scare stories and a really kind of pernicious moralizing. So we're never simply told how much CO2 China is emitting. Instead, we're given media hype about a place where rivers run black, where there is an environmental dystopia, where dolphins die and people are poisoned. You know, some writers discuss China's real environmental problems as if they were a new plague or a world war. And again, I think that reflects our own discomfort with economic growth, when we can only ever see its downsides, its residue, rather than the immense benefits that it has for Chinese society. And again, we're never simply told how many people China has. Instead, we're treated to these kind of really horrible, dire warnings that it's swarming with too many people, that there are aborted girl fetuses lying on the streets, that there are too many young men and they're going to all turn into this kind of rapacious horde. And this too, I think, reveals more about our own prejudices, our Malthusian desire for small populations rather than large populations like China has. And finally, China appears too centralized to us. This is a state with a very diverse population, yet which believes in a Chinese national ideal. It is not sufficiently multicultural or celebratory of difference for our Western tastes. That too, I think, reflects our own disillusionment with universalist ideals and our distaste for anything that seems national rather than ethnic and centralized rather than diffuse. This, I think, is really why China appears as so thuggish and strange to us today. It is a sinner against the Western dogma of sustainability, the Western religion of environmentalism, and the Western ideology of multiculturalism. It is too unambiguously modern and ambitious for our tastes. And I think that is the final twist in the China story today. The Chinese have, of course, as we all know, have long been seen as the other by Western observers. But today they are seen as the other precisely because they remind us too much of how we used to be in the past. That is, too big, too ambitious, too growth-driven, and too optimistic about the future.